Hello everyone, welcome to the next lab of ECE573 Advanced Embedded Logic Design. In this lab, we are going to discuss the implementation of online machine learning algorithm on the SoC or Z-board via SDSoC. Specifically, we are going to look at the multi-arm bandit based algorithm. So, online machine learning algorithms are the top type of the algorithms which does not need any training. These algorithms are designed such that they can be deployed directly in the environment without any prior training or dataset, and they learn from the environment, and then they take the learn from the environment, and then they try to take the optimal actions. These are the type of the reinforcement learning algorithms which are widely used in the robotics. They are also used in the wireless communications, and also in the advertisement selection on the website. For example, suppose you are a user and someone you are browsing some web page, right? So then ideally you want to see the ad which are of interest to you. So usually what happens, there is an algorithm which runs in the background, which learns from your past history, how which web page you are browsing, where you are spending more time, and based upon that, it learns your interest. And then when you browse next time, it will show you the ad relevant to your interest, so that there is a higher possibility of the you clicking on that ad, or you watch that particular video. So why this is important? Because the higher the probability of you clicking on that ad or watching the particular video, higher is the revenue generation. So in the website advertisement placement, these algorithms have been widely deployed. These algorithms are also used in the, say, wireless radio. For example, if you are you have your radio or wireless transmitter wants to transmit the data, and say it has, say, n channels, n wireless channels, and each channel has the, say, different signal to noise ratio. So ideally you need to have the wireless channel which with as high SNR as possible. But this SNR changes with the time, and depending upon the scenario, we don't know this SNR in a priori. So you need to learn about these wireless channels, and you need to select the best wireless channel as many times as possible. So where these bandit algorithms are used. They are also used in the IoT networks for the resource allocations. They are also used in the medical trials. For example, you have, say, 3 to 4 drugs, and you don't know which drug is more efficient. Okay, all the drugs works, but you don't know which one is the more efficient for the particular set of people. Then you can use this algorithm to find out the optimal drug. Okay, so in the multi-arm bandit setup, you have the number of arms. So these are the we represent them as a k arms. Okay, so k arms means you have the k choices available to you. For example, in wireless network, you have the k wireless channels available to you. In case of the drugs, you have the k drugs available to you. In case of the website advertisement, you have the k advertisement available to you, and then you need to select the one advertisement from there. You have the horizon size of n. So that means you are going to have the n different time slots. For example, in wireless radio, you are going to transmit n times one after the another. Okay. In case of the drugs one, you have the n people on which you can try your drugs one after the another. In case of the website advertisement, a user is going to click on n different browsers. So that means you have the n attempts to put your advertisement at the different locations. So you have the n horizon size. Then in each time, you are going to select one arm at a time. For example, in wireless radio, you are going to select one channel at a time. Okay, so this is the assumption we have made, but you can modify it to, say, 2 arms and 4 arms and so on. Then in case of the drugs, in a given for a given person, you are going to select only one drug. In case of the website advertisement, for a given web page at a given time, you are going to put only one advertisement. Okay, so that means you are going to select one arm at a time. and the select arm in the time slot n is denoted by the IN. Now, once you select the arm, you will receive the reward, and this reward is called as a RN. Okay, so this reward, for example, in wireless channel, you transmit the data over the channel, and you get the how many bits are received correctly or how many bits are in error. That is the BER. Or in case of the your advertisement, you click on the particular ad and you got the revenue from that particular ad. So that is the reward. So each ad may have the different revenue, so you will get the different reward for every ad, and you need to select the you need to increase your revenue as much as possible. Okay, so these are the 4 terms you need to understand. One is the number of arm, horizon size. In each time slot, you select one arm, that is IN, and you get the reward RN. Okay, so let's do one exercise. Okay, suppose that you have the four arms with you. Okay, so this arm 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I ask you to find out the find out the best optimal arm among these 4 arms. Okay, and say you have the say 10 to 15 options, you have 10 to 15 attempts are there. So say in the first attempt you selected the say arm 1. Okay, so you got the reward 1. Okay, so you have not selected this arm, you have selected the arm 1 and you got the arm 1, reward 1. So now here we are getting the feedback of the arm which you have selected, but you are not getting anything about the what would have been happen if you have selected the 2 arm, whether your reward would be 1 or 0. You don't get that information. Okay, so this is called as a partial feedback. There are certain settings where when you select the arm 1, you get the reward of the arm 1, but you also get the reward what would have been happen if you have selected the arm 2 or arm 3 or arm 2. So that is called as a full feedback setting. Here in the case we are considering the partial feedback setting, where you get the reward of the arm which you have selected. You don't get any information about the other one. Now let's go to the second attempt, and in the second attempt let's select the arm 2. Okay, so you won't select the arm 2, then you will check what the reward will get. You say that you got the reward of say 1. Then say in the third one you select the arm say 3, and then 3 also you got the reward 1, and in the fourth one you select the arm 4 and you got the reward as 0. Okay, now you have selected the each arm once. Now you need to learn from the previous one and you need to select the particular arm. So from this one I can see that the first 3 arms I got a good reward of 1, so I'll try to select one of them. Say I select the arm 2. Okay, so I select the arm 2 and I look at the 2 and I got the reward of say 0. Okay, now I'll select the arm say 6. Sorry, I'll select the arm say 3, because I know that the 1 and 3 are good for me. So I selected the arm 3, and let's see which arm. Once I select the arm 3, I got the reward of 0. And you will do so on, and you can see that you need to explore all the arms sufficient number of time to find out how good they are. So this is called as a exploration of all the arm. But at the end, you can see that by the time you have completed the 6 time slot, how much reward you got? You got 1. Here you got 1, you got 1, you got 1, and you got 0. So you got only 3 rewards. So out of 6, you got a reward of 3. Okay, so what is your success probability? It is 0.5. Okay, and now suppose if I tell you the information that this arm is producing the reward 1 with the say 0.4 probability, this arm is producing with the 0.8 probability, this is producing with the 0.1, and this is producing with the 0.6. So if I give you the information, what you will do, you will always select this arm, right? And what reward you will get? You will get on an average reward of 4.8 because it is 8 and you have the 6 attempts, so 6 into 8, 48, 4.82. So you can see you got a reward 3, but if you had have known that this arm is the best, you will select that arm and you will get the reward of 4.8. And here what is happening, when you select the arm 2 always, because you had the prior information, that means you are exploiting the arm. But you can exploit the particular arm only when you have the information about that, how each arm is behaving. But in this multi-arm bandit setting, you don't have anything information about the each arm. You need to go to the environment, you need to learn the arm, and then you need to select the best arm as many times as possible. And this is called as a exploration exploitation trade-off, because you have to explore all the arms sufficient number of times to learn them better, but at the same time you need to make sure that you select your best arm, so for example here, as many times as possible. Okay, and this is the exploration exploitation trade-off. So given if you don't have any information, what you will do, you can follow the one policy where you select all the arms equally likely. Okay, this is called as a pure exploration. That means you explore each arm. So here by mistake I have written channel, but you explore each arm equal number of times. This is called as a pure exploration. For example, in this case, previous case, I'll select 1, 2, 3, 4 with the equal number of times, one after the another. Okay. So what will be my average reward? I'll get the 0.4 plus 0.8 plus 0.1 plus 0.6. So what I'll get? I'll get 1.9 divided by 4. So 19 divided by 4. So I'll get around 1.9 divided by 4. So I'll get the corresponding average reward of say around 0.5. But ideally, I should have got the average reward of 0.8. Okay, so this is not a good policy. Policy is to choose the empirical base channel. So to exploit the base channel. For example, in the beginning, I select all the arms 1, and then based upon the feedback I got, I'll just lock to the particular arm. Say I'll get locked to this arm. Okay, so in this case, what will happen? You are, without doing the sufficient exploration, you are locking to the particular arm without with the minimum with insufficient number of samples, and this may work sometimes but may not work all the times. Okay, so because you may not be able to find the optimal arm without doing the sufficient exploration. Is that you explore the arms with the epsilon n number of times and then exploit it. So you do the initial exploration and then do the exploitation. Okay, so ideally what we need to make sure, we don't do the too much exploration, or we don't do the too less exploration or premature exploitation. Okay, if you do the too much exploration, what will happen? You will select the suboptimal arms a large number of times. And if you do the premature exploitation, what will happen? You may get locked into the suboptimal arm. Okay, so that you need to avoid. So let's take this example. For example, here I have the K arms, okay, 5 arms, and these are their probability. I don't know this probability, and you can see that I should select these arms as many number of times. So if my horizon size is say 10,000, you can see that I'll get the total reward of, on an average, I'll get the total reward of 8,000. So you can see that my optimal policy, I'll get the total reward of 8,000. Since I don't know this mu value, I need to do the exploration and exploitation. Suppose that I don't do the significant I don't do any exploration, I directly do the exploitation. So you can see that I'm not going to perform well. Okay, or if I do only exploration, you can see that I'm not going to perform well. So you need to make sure that you do the sufficient amount of the exploration followed by the exploitation. And how to choose this epsilon correctly is a big headache. Okay, in this case, we are not going to learn about how to design the algorithm. We are just going to implement the algorithm. One possible approach is that you learn the confidence of the particular arm or the mean of that particular arm. For example, you have the each arm say 0.3, 0.35, 0.8, and you are learning this one. So your learning will become more and more accurate as you have the more and more samples. So what you do, as you learn over the time, you find out the lower confidence bound and upper confidence bound. For example, this is the real mean, but you don't have the real mean. So what you will do, whatever you have the estimated the mean, you find out what is the worst I can go or what is the best I can go. So you find out the confidence around your mean based upon your past samples, and you find out the lower confidence bound and upper confidence bound, and then you select the arm in each time slot. You find out this UCB in upper confidence bound and lower confidence bound, and then you select the arm which has the highest upper confidence bound. Why you select the arms which has the highest upper confidence bound? That means you are selecting the arm which has the highest mean, which is the as per the upper confidence bound, based upon the history or information you have observed till now. Okay, so till now I have observed some information. I'll choose the what is the best arm based upon my past information. Okay, this is called as the optimism in the face of uncertainty, because I don't know the all the arms, I don't have the information about their mean, I am learning their mean, I don't have the accurate estimate of their mean. So what I'll do the my based upon my estimate and number of samples, I'll find out what is my confidence. Okay, suppose that I find out that my estimate is say 0.5, but it can be, depending upon the samples, it can be plus minus 0.01. Okay, I have the another arm where the estimate can be plus minus say 0.2. So in that case, what is this upper confidence bound? It will be 0.51 and this will be 0.542, and then I'll choose this arm. Okay, so this you try to keep it in each time slot. You find out the upper confidence bound of each arm, and then you select the arm which is the higher, having the highest up UCB. So this UCB, you can see that how it is designed. Your number of arms are k, number of horizon size is n. Okay, then your slot is, in each slot you select the arm Rn and you get the reward Rn. Then what you will do, you will keep the history of your previous sample. So what is this T indicate? How many times I have selected the arm k in till the time slot n. So if I have selected the arm k, I'll increment this by 1. If I have not selected, I'll keep it as the original value. Okay, so this it's an indicated function. What it say? When I have selected the arm k, my in is the selected arm, it is equal to k, that is this one. I'm going to increment this factor by 1, else I'm going to keep it as this. And once I select that arm, and if my reward is 1, I'll increment the corresponding xk. Okay, if my reward is 0, it will remain as previous. If a reward is 1, it will increment by the corresponding reward value. Okay, so the first step in the UCB algorithm is that you need to make sure that based upon your actions in the previous time slot, you will get the reward, and you update your parameter x and t. T indicates the number of times you have selected the particular arm, and the x indicates the total reward you got when you selected that particular arm. Then in the beginning, when you don't have any information about the arm, what you will do, you will select the each arm one. Then thereafter in every time slot, you will find out the quality factor, which is the UCB index. We say we mentioned in the beginning, that is nothing but this equation. So what is this equation? This is nothing but the x by t, that is your estimated mean, and this is known as the exploitation factor, and this is known as the exploration factor. And look at this carefully. So x by t is indicate how many times I have selected, t is the how many times I have selected the arm and how much reward you got. So x by t indicate my mean reward of a particular arm, and ideally I should select the arm which has the highest mean reward. And this factor is indicate the exploration factor. So when this factor will be large, when the t is small. And what is the t? T is the number of times you have selected the particular arm. If you have not selected the particular arm sufficient number of times, then what will happen? You don't have sufficient information for that arm. So that means you need to select that arms more number of times. So this algorithm will force you to select the each arm sufficient number of time so that you get the sufficient information of all the arms. So after some time, this factor will become small, and then this will be the dominating factor, and then you will select the arm which has the highest mean tree. Okay. So this is the quality factor is calculated. Then once you calculate the quality factor, you select the arm which has the highest quality factor. Okay. So what happens if you are running the horizon for the algorithm for the n time slot? In the first k time slot, you select the each arm once. So you select the one first arm in the first time slot, second arm in the second time slot, and so on. So it is in the beginning. Then in every time slot, you need to calculate the quality factor for all the arms. So if you have k arms, you need to find out the quality factor for the k arms. So you can see that this is the parallel computation. You are calculating the quality factor of each arm in parallel, and then you select the arm which has the highest quality factor. So you need to you need to compare all the quality factors and find out the arm which has the highest quality factor. Then you select this arm, then you will play the arm, you will get the feedback which is the Rn, you will update your X and T. Then in the next time slot, you will find out the quality factor, you select the arm with the highest quality factor, then you get the reward, you update the X of T, and this process will repeat till your end of the horizon. So this is the one way of calculating the quality factor. So similarly, there are other algorithms are there which calculate the quality factor in different way. For example, this is the one way of calculating the quality factor. This is the another way of calculating the quality factor. Okay, so there are different variations of the algorithms are there, and they differ in the performance in the specific environment. There are more complex algorithm as well. For example, this is the KLUCB, which is the Kullback-Leibler divergence-based UCB algorithm, and you can see that here the quality factor is very complex. Here the quality factor is based upon this optimization function, and implementing this on the SoC is again a challenge. Similarly, there is another algorithm called as the Thompson sampling algorithm. Here the quality factor is calculated using the beta function. Again, implementing something on the hardware is again a challenging part, implementing this one. So in our lab, we are going to focus only on the UCB algorithm, which is simple to implement. You can see that the computations are simple, but if you are interested in this domain, you should look into how to implement this more complex algorithm like KLUCB in Thompson sampling. And if you want to know which one algorithm is better, so you can run write a small MATLAB or Python code, and you will see that on an average, the Thompson sampling algorithm performs the better. Okay, so you can see that what has happened here. There are 5 arms. So the arm with the highest mean reward is the 3 one. So that means this arm should be selected higher number of times. And if you see that when you run the algorithm, say for 2000 time slot, that is horizon size is 2000, your UCB, KLUCB, and the Thompson sampling selects the best arm, say 1300 times, 1600 times, and the 1800 times. So that means Thompson sampling algorithm identifies the best arm quickly, and it selects around 1800 time slot. Okay. On the other hand, KLUCB selects the arm only around 1600 time slot, while the UCB select around 1300 times. So if you see that this algorithm performs better, but implementing on the SoC is a challenging one. Okay, and how this, you can see that how your confidence of each arm varies. So as I told you, each algorithm calculates the estimate the mean and confidence around the mean, and select the arms which has the highest confidence. So here it shows that how the confidence mean, and you can see that this algorithm performs better. Now implementing this on the SDSoC. So one simple way is that I can implement algorithm directly on the software only in the PS. So what I'll get the good flexibility that by changing the C code, I can change the corresponding algorithm like UCB, KLUCB, Thompson sampling, UCB1, UCB, any other one. So I get a flexibility, reconfigurability, but as we know that the execution time on the processor is very high, so my execution time will be very high. So what we do the hardware software co-design, where we implement the algorithm between the SoC and the ARM and the FPGA. So you can see that here one way of implementing is that I implement the parameter update, Q calculation and ARM selection in the FPGA, and then the reward I will get it from the ARM processor. So here I have implemented for the 2 arms. I can also implement for the 4 arms. Okay, so depending upon the my algorithm requirement. So if you compare the latency, you can see that on an average, when I implement it on the software, that is a PS, and if I implement on the hardware, that is a FPGA and the PS in combination, I'll get the lower execution time on the hardware compared to the software. Okay, that is what here we have shown with the K machine, and you will get the better improvement as you increase the number of machine. Why? Because as you increase the number of arms or machine, you can see that your number of calculation of the number of quality factor will increase. That means you have the you can execute those quality factor calculation in more efficiently in parallel in the hardware compared to the software. Next thing is you can optimize your word length. Quality factor calculation can be done using the floating point, integer point, or the fixed word point. So you can come up with the optimized word length so that you can reduce the resource utilization. Okay. For example, here I'm showing you the functionality for the different word length. For example, in the first blue color, I have implemented using the floating point. In the red color, I have implemented using the fixed point word length. That is 27 bits, out of which some bits are for the integer, some bits for the some bits are for the fractional. So here we are not going to use the AP int. We are going to use some other AP fixed .h file where you can mention how many fixed point word length, how many integer bits, and how many fractional bits you want to use. And you can see that I can go till 11 bits without compromising on the functionality of the algorithm. Here you can see that I'm identifying the base term, which is 4. Here also my base term is last one, which is I am able to identify. I'm selecting it as many times as possible. And in this case, this is my base term, and I'm able to select it. Okay. And what is the advantage of the fixed word? You can see that I get the significant reduction in my LUT, flip-flop, and the DSP utilization when I go to the lower word length. So word length always gives you the significant improvement in your resource utilization. Okay, so I have covered what is the theory necessary for our lab implementation. In the next video, we are going to discuss how to implement this algorithm on the SDSoC. But if you are interested more about this one, we have a 3-hour tutorial on our YouTube channels, and also we have additional 1.5 hour tutorial, as well as one 20-minute video discussing these results. Also the source code, we have implemented this using the Verilog, HLS, as well as using the SDSoC. So the source codes are also available on the GitHub page. Okay. So in the next video, we will discuss about how to implement these algorithms on the using the SDSoC.